All right. Oh. Okay. All right. Wait a minute. Okay. Turn my flashlight off. And now how that goes. Man, we're live. We're live. Let me get the thing off the screen. There it is. Oh, we're super zoomed in. We're live, man. We're live. We're back. We haven't done a live stream in a little bit. It's been like a full week now. I think the last preview was the last live stream. It felt like we needed a live stream at some point. We got so much stuff happening. All right, we had so many things happening. I was like, I want to do a live stream, but also it was perfect timing. Which was actually terrible timing that we're doing this. It's kind of a little bit of both. This is weird, but I told y'all, hey, I gave y'all the rundown of when I'm live on Bleacher Report, and I assumed that I was supposed to be live today, but that's on me because typically, while the season's happening, I'm not going to be live on Fridays because game day, I'm live post-game show. But because there's the bye week, I actually wasn't supposed to go do a show today over there. And I thought I was. Like, I didn't take that into account. So I'm preparing for the show. Bam, I got this thing laid out. Let's do this thing. And I've been doing it for a few hours. And they're like, yo, you ain't going live today, dog. So I'm like, oh, snap. So now I'm here. It's like, you know what? This is the perfect time. Let's just jump over on the YouTube channel. Let's go live over there. Let's discuss what I was going to discuss. Because I thought, like, maybe I could save some of this stuff. But if I save it, I'm not going to have the same, I think, interest in touching on it next week. Maybe I would. I don't know. It's like we could just dive into it today. We could do a short little live stream on it. Why not? You know what I mean? I want to use some of these talking points that I have because basically, if you don't know, I have to kind of come up with like a topic that I think would be interesting and then just that. Like, and a lot of times it's kind of just like me doing a video, but without editing. I'm just trying to come up with something I think would be interesting. And today, I kind of dove into the defense a little bit. And I've done this a lot. Like, I've found, like, positional groups, like, things that I think have been working well. And I'm like, I want to explore this a little bit more. So that's what I did today. And again, because there was no show, it's like, all right, let's just bring this over to YouTube and let's just chat it up. Plus, we have all these head coaching interviews going down. And honestly, I see y'all in the chat. Who's in the chat? Let me get that pulled up. We got, who is it? El Rocco? El Roaco, 1986. I'm probably saying that wrong. Let's go. I see you. Appreciate you being here. Motown Mitch in the building. My man Daniel's here. Afternoon. Is it afternoon? Okay, afternoon. Yeah, probably afternoon still. How you doing? It's good to have you here. I was thinking about doing a video on all the coaching stuff, and I think at some point I may do an update on that, or maybe not even an update, maybe just at some point we're gonna do like the whole what's next. We're going to have to discuss that because I'm assuming at least one of these guys are going to be out, if not both, and then potentially more. Like, we could be losing more than Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn this offseason. I mean, could it be Ray Agnew? I haven't really heard anything there, but, if he went on, you're talking about comp picks. So there's a lot of things that could go down and shake out, and at some point we're going to have to address that. Like, full on, like, what's the next option? Is it in-house? Is it out-of-house? But I didn't want to rush into that because right now it's just in the early stages of interviews, and I didn't think there was enough there to actually do a video on unless I tied it with something else. It's like I don't really know what I'll talk about unless I'm, like, specifically looking for candidates, which is difficult because I don't even know who the heck is going to be available at this point. It's a tough spot to be in. But we do have that. So I'll start there first. Also, powered by BetUS, this live stream is USTube150. That's the code. 150% deposit match, first deposit, 125% on your next two deposits, up to $2,000. If you're looking for your sportsbook, man, BetUS is the place to be. Check it out. We'll check it out here in a second. But that code is down in the description. So let me just throw, this is not fancy. All right, I kind of just, the other graphics look better. This one is not great, but it is like the news graphic. This is what we've been getting. Let me pop it up here. Let me know also if I'm missing anybody from this list. I don't think I am, but can I move that? Let me see. I can just take that off the screen for a second. I don't think I'm missing anybody from this or any team from this list. Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, the two places are set to interview. Like, Ben Johnson just completed his interview with the Patriots today. And then I saw, we all got the news that Aaron Glenn was like, hey, I'm not going to New England, right? I'm going to pass on that. And when I first saw that news, I'll be honest, the first thing that I thought of was like, I wonder if he's doing this because Ben Johnson is going to take this job. I don't think that's a for sure thing, but it just kind of popped into the back of my mind. Like, maybe that's what this is going to turn into. And that's why he's like, you know what? I'm not even going to interview there. Ben, go get that. But at the same time, he doesn't know, I guess, if he's going to get offered the position. So maybe that doesn't make any sense. I just think that the Patriots would be amazing for Ben Johnson. And if he's going to leave, stay out of the NFC would be ideal. And also stay out of the North, of course. I think New England would love to have him. I think it would be a good spot. I think ownership, you trust it. I think that they have a young quarterback that we like, and they don't really have any weapons, which I would think if I'm a guy that's taken over as a coach, and, he's going to want to have his fingerprint on a lot of this. Like, there was even a report that came out that said, again, this offseason, Ben Johnson, there's no guarantee that he does leave. Now, I assume it's much more likely he does this year than last year or the year before. But, again, there's no guarantee that he leaves unless, that lines up for him. And maybe he gets his choice of a general manager. Like, everything has to line up for him to want to leave. And I would just think that if I'm a guy that's like, hey, I'm going to go become a head coach, especially an offensive guy, and I'm going to be the play caller, a team like the Patriots sounds fascinating. I get a high draft pick. If I can go get my own GM, I got good ownership. They know winning. The division is pretty weak outside of one team. And I'm going to New England. The one thing that we need is weapons. We'll draft some dang weapons. Like, you got a lot of the things there that, I got some of the defensive players I already like. You got a lot of young pieces on that side. You do need some linemen. I don't know. I just feel like that spot is like everything that they need. Ben Johnson could uplift immediately. Now, I understand it sounds like Vrabel's actually the favorite to go to New England. Like, that's the guy that's most likely going to become the head coach there. But they said that they would be open, I guess, to being blown away by Ben Johnson. And the big question out of there was like, hey, Ben Johnson, how are you going to manage your time as also being a play caller? Which, okay, I don't know. I guess that's a reasonable question. There's coaches that do it, so it's not like a new thing, but whatever. Would you rather have Lawrence or Williams? Oh man. Now that's tough because I don't think Lawrence has played well. You know what I mean? I don't think he's played well. I feel like I'd rather have Williams. Like, in the current situation right now, I don't know that I'd rather go to the Bears, which is the problem, but I feel like I'd rather have Williams right now. Like, I know, like, because I feel like I have flexibility. I'm still getting high draft picks. I can move off the dude if I want to. I feel like I'd rather roll with Williams right now. They got a ton of weapons. That's just like, bro, give me some dang offensive linemen. And I do think that's the big reason I wanted to stay away from Chicago. I do think if that team just had some, like, reasonable play calling with an investment on offensive line, they could be a lot better really fast. But I'm hoping he stays away. And I think he's going to stay away. So we had the Jaguars and we got the Raiders on there. Again, I think the Patriots would be great for him. Who said Jaguars? Ed said Jaguars. Jaguars, yeah. I mean, look, man, they've been disappointing now for a while. I don't think the Jaguars know what the heck they're doing personnel-wise, man. And I don't know if they're going to move off Balky. It sounds like maybe they're open to it, but maybe they're not. So I don't know if that's going to happen. If they don't, I assume Ben Johnson's not going to go there. He wouldn't consider it, I would assume, at that point. If they do, maybe it opens the door. But I feel like they would have to because, their talent is just not there. I mean, I don't know what the heck that team's doing. It just doesn't. They're receiving. I mean, they have now. Brian Thomas is a dog. He turned out this year, but outside of that, that team is kind of a mess in terms of I think just acquiring talent offensively specifically, and then defensively. I actually think they have some talent. It just nothing fits together. It's like they have dudes, but nothing really goes together on the defensive side of the ball. They could do with an offense, a defensive mind, a previous head coach. Like, they're gonna need, I think, more than a head coach there. They're gonna need the help, as the truth is said, a new owner. They're gonna need a new owner. They're gonna need a new GM. Like, they need a fresh start there because that thing is a mess on both. That to me is not like a fixed one side. We're kind of good here. That thing is a mess all across the board. So they need some help. So I think that one would take more than just Trent Baalke staying there and Ben being like, yeah, I'll go there. But Glenn has a lot of the same team. Chicago, Jacksonville. Like I said, he passed on the Patriots. New Orleans, which it honestly sounds like he's going to New Orleans. I don't know that that's going to happen, but it sounds like if he goes somewhere, he's going to New Orleans, which I think we all would understand if he decided to go to New Orleans. That would make sense. And I think New Orleans kind of needs that a little bit. It'd be weird because they're kind of with a defensive coach now, but it would make a lot of sense too. It'd make a ton of sense. So, and I think they got the pieces. There's a couple familiar players, but they'd have the pieces right away. Like that, the style that Glenn wants to play, I think would transition pretty quickly over there. And then nobody wants to go to the Jets. I mean, nobody wants to do that. I don't. Nobody wants to do that. The other things I saw was Hank Fraley for the Seattle Seahawks OC. I haven't seen another position. If y'all see one, let me know. That's the only one I've seen is Hank Fraley for offensive coordinator with Seattle. I doubt it will happen, but that's pretty awesome that he's getting an interview. Good for him, man. As an offensive line coach, like, man, he's deserved that look. It's about darn time, Hank. I don't know if he's gotten those before. Good for you, Hank. And then Chris Spielman interviewing to be general manager of the Jets. Hey, I guess if Chris Spielman went there, maybe Aaron Glenn would be like, I'll go too. Maybe that's what their plan is. Like, oh, what if we can get both of these guys? We get them as a package deal. Maybe that's the plan. And the Raiders just fired their GM, so I just threw him up there. But I think that's everybody and their list of upcoming interviews. Carlos, I feel like it's a little bit more hope than anything for me. But I'm not counting out the potential of returning. I'm still not counting it out for Ben. I think it's more likely that Aaron Glenn leaves. If you said only one leaves, I'd bet Aaron Glenn leaves. But I think Ben's still got a path to come back. I really do. But that's where we're at with that now. I'll just leave that there. I don't really know what else to do with that. What's Chris Spielman's Madden rating? Wait, what is his Madden rating? Like back in the day? You know how they do now. I don't know. He might cook. I don't know. I don't know if they don't even do like historical teams anymore. You'd have to have like the different versions of Chris. He's probably a dog on there. He's probably a dog. I would take Lawrence and the Jags easier division. Easier division is big. And okay. And don't have to see the Lions twice a year. Yeah, see, I wouldn't want to go to well, I think Ben Johnson, he gives off the vibe of the kind of guy that'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go beat y'all. like that's the kind of way he might be thinking. Like that is a competition way. That's okay. Like I think he'd be looking at it from that. I wouldn't be surprised if he had that kind of mentality. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go beat y'all now with Chicago. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm here for it. It'd be some crazy battles, but I don't want to see it happen. I could just understand that. Like he seems like that kind of dude. Like he's like, yo, I want it this way. If I'm going to Chicago, we're gonna have it this way, and I'm gonna make it happen. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like Lawrence. I don't like how Lawrence has played the last few years. So that's all I'm basing that on. You know what I mean? That's it. I just don't trust Lawrence at all. So yeah, if you're telling me just the two quarterbacks, give me Williams on the cheap deal. But between the teams, I definitely understand going to Jacksonville. I definitely understand that. I just don't buy into Trevor Lawrence much. But again, I don't like what they're done around him. It's been a mess. That team is a mess. I don't know what they're doing. They got to fix a lot of stuff over there. And I guess so does Chicago. Chicago might just keep Ben Johnson away from there. Chicago just might play themselves, but I'm cool with. You know what I mean? Detroit Kitties, overrated soft frauds. Hey, who is... Oh, my goodness. All right, hold up. Time out. My guy, where did you get this picture from? Did you make this? Where did you get this picture from, dog? What are we doing here? All right? What is this? What is this? That's Broski Bear. Hey, man. Hey, new Jetstar receiver. Me? Oh, heck no, dude. Nope. It sounds like Garrett Wilson trying to get out. Hey, nobody's trying to stay there. Not like about to lose all their star receivers, man, if Aaron Rodgers comes back. But I just wanted to hit on that. I just thought that was, that's the news, so we might as well throw it in here. But the main topic today, I didn't know how to title this, to be honest. Lions can rely on coverage in the playoffs. So this was, like I said, if you're just joining, this was my topic for Bleacher Report today. But I don't have a show today, actually. I played myself. But I prepared for it, so I still have the notes. And usually it's about 30 minutes, so that's probably about as much content as I have here as I could make it 30 minutes. But we can still do it. And I thought it was kind of fun. And I think it's easier actually being live over here because we can kind of just like do stuff while we're live and figure things out while we're live. I get a little bit more flexibility in that sense. It's kind of hard to do that in like a segment. I'm not trying to go to anywhere else but what I already have prepared. But this was interesting, man, because we just saw this Vikings game. We saw the way the Lions played. We saw the amount of man that they used, 66.7%, second highest of the season. And I used that like little like snapshot from an article that was talking about like the Vikings against man coverage, and most teams don't do that kind of thing against Darnold. And after seeing that game and then trying to kind of expand on that whole idea of playing man coverage, I thought it was interesting when you see the kind of numbers that come back. First off, Minnesota is really good against man coverage this season. And I found a great website for this. I have some plays too. I found a great website for this. But I'm just going to roll through it. I got multiple different graphics. I'll throw them up on the screen. And really, so this has been the case that I've been making for a while, which isn't like the Lions have the best corner in football. Like, it's not that, but it's more so that they're just very well-rounded. You know what I mean? They don't really have holes in the back end. And, outside of the communication breakdowns that we would have in the past with Terry, I was like, we don't really have a lot of – there was even potentially one in this last game, but Branch picked it up, didn't have an issue in the red zone. We covered it up. But we're very well-rounded. And now with Alex Anzalone back, whose metrics look fantastic, whatever advanced stats we want to throw out there of what he's done, we're very well-rounded, especially at the safety position now. Brian Branch back into the slot. Like, we have the dudes to play that style. It's unique. It was unique last week, and I think that game should speak a lot more than maybe it does, because it was very unique. The Lions were able to play that style. I don't think anybody could just go play that style against Vikings. It's the reason that nobody really plays like that against the Vikings, because typically it doesn't work, but it worked for us. And I thought that was something that needed to be expanded on, like, why did it work for us? So this first graphic, I got like 4 of them. This first one, I just went through and I put together the statistics for each of our players in man coverage. Now, we have a couple of different sources here, so I wanted to, so I'll have to break that down as we get to each one. A couple different sources, but the first one's just kind of an outline of the Lions roster. This is them in man coverage this season across the board. This was according to Pro Football Focus. I would sign a Meek just to play against Jefferson. Hey, he's under contract next year. Meek's set to come back next season. Now, beyond that, we'll see. But yeah, he's back next season. He played well. I mean, he got beat a couple times. Like, he definitely got beat. There could have been more production allowed. Sometimes they just didn't connect with him. And yeah, he got help. Like, it's always that. I don't remember who it was in the past. I remember that. I think it was Jefferson in the past, too. And it's like, man, they showed him. It's like, yeah, we give help. And that's okay. You give help. But I think what's more impressive about that is the idea of giving help and not being cooked by somebody else. Right? Like, if I'm giving help, and like, most of those times, there was a lot of times that we did. Not every time, though. But most of the times, like, if it was, hey, one deep safety, he's going to bracket in Justin Jefferson. But it was the fact that the other guy didn't torch us. Like, that was the most impressive thing. The other guy didn't go crazy on us in this game. And honestly, the one big, there's really one big reception for Jefferson, and that was kind of it. He had a 31-yard reception on a Meek, and the Lions had nobody to give support in the back end. And you could see that kind of like as the play went on, he just like slowly started gaining separation on Meek. And that happened a couple times. Even happened in the back of the end zone where it was kind of a drop pass, kind of a miss. And like as the play rolled along, like we covered up everything else really well. And he had to get to like his final read on the play. And he kind of missed Jefferson. It was incomplete. Probably could have still been caught. But you could just see like Jefferson to start to kind of separate. And it was like, oh, wow. At first I thought like Meek just stopped playing. But I'm like, why would he stop running there? There was no help. I think he just couldn't keep up with him. But it was the fact that the Lions made it take that long to get there. Like it wasn't immediately the answer. And again, the number 2 didn't cook them. The number 3 didn't cook them. And that to me is everything, because you can, the whole idea of like where people knock, like, oh, you had to put a safety over top, that kind of thing. Like, it's only a knock if I had to put a safety over top so the other guy went crazy. But if they didn't, then hey, keep put the safety over top. That's good stuff. But yeah, Meek did his thing, man. He did his thing, and it's I think like he's got the perfect play style to play with help. I think he plays with safety support better than most corners because he's so comfortable there. He's so comfortable there. Thank you, Brad Holmes. I mean, what a move that was. And I mean, according to these injury updates, which there's a lot of them. I will hit on that for a second here. Rakestraw, it sounds like that soon he is progressing well. We don't have an exact time there, but potentially soon we get Rakestraw back for depth. We still have Vildor. Carlton, he's not expected to return this year. Aiden Hutchinson, I don't know if y'all have been hearing this. Let me get back to this in a second. There's been buzz about the NFC Championship now, and not just the Super Bowl, which I think is crazy. But I heard there was a video. Let me see if I can find a video. I haven't even looked this up yet. I forgot about this. Yeah, let me grab this video because I had to go get my is this the video? So I had to get my ACL checked out. Let me show y'all this video. I haven't even seen this yet. I had to get my ACL checked out what was it? A week ago. No, not a week ago. A couple days ago. It was a couple days ago. What was it? 2 days ago? 2 days ago. It was like 2 days ago. I had to get my ACL checked out. It was my checkup for it. And the doctor knows I'm the Lions guy, right? So he's telling me about the Lions, and he brings up Aiden Hutchinson. He always does this, which is pretty cool, right? He gives me a little insight, like how he looks at it as a doctor on this stuff. And he talked about this video, I guess, of him running in a pool. I don't know if this is the best. Is this the best video? I guess this is the best video. Him running in a pool, right? After we saw him walk around. So he was talking about this video, which I hadn't seen yet. And he was like, the good thing about his injury is that he'll be fine. Like, once that thing heals, he'll be good to go. It shouldn't be something that, like, you have to worry about. Like, he'll be fantastic once the thing is healed, he'll be fantastic. So that's the positive about it. He just has to get there. He said, I would be surprised if he basically, like, laid it out like he'd be surprised if Hutchinson could play in the Super Bowl. And he based it on that video because he said based on that video, his quad, he said, the size of his quad was the problem. He said his quad is so small based on that video. Now, that was a week-old video. You know what I'm saying? But that video is old. First time I seen it was 3 weeks ago. So, okay, that's 3 weeks old video. Is there a second one? If that's these all say a week ago. If it's 3 weeks ago, then that changes things. But based on that video, he said his quad was too small. And that's the issue I'm dealing with right now. My leg it's taking forever to build back any kind of muscle in it. Like, you can see one visibly looks way different than the other. And he said that'll be the thing there. So I'm taking that. I mean, that's the only doctor I know. You know what I'm saying? So, like, taking that with, like, okay, this guy he knows what he's talking about. He'll be good to go. It's just like, when is he good to go? And then, like, I guess how fast can he build that muscle mass? And we see it here with him running. So, but the buzz was like NFC Championship. I doubt that. It'd be crazy to say that he's playing. If we win one game, this guy's back. But just hearing that buzz makes me hype about the idea of him playing in a Super Bowl. I mean, that makes me hype about that. And if they're not rushing it, and he does, like, he's in a spot where because I gotta, if you don't have the muscle mass there, I would assume that increases the chances of you messing that thing up again. Not only like your performance is going to be worse, but like for me, if they didn't want to, I'm like in stages, so like I gotta like get to the next stage where I can start running and stuff again. And they held that off for another 6 weeks because of the size of my leg. Like it's like this, so they're like, hey, we gotta hold off on that. Plus, we can't put you in a brace because it's too small yet. It hasn't built up yet, and from I guess my understanding is like kind of like the whole, it gives out that kind of thing, like the stability of the leg. So it needs to be stronger to make sure the stability is there. So I hope that they're not rushing that aspect of it, and I would doubt they would if they have the best doctors. So if that's good from his point, like he'll be good. Like this is a better injury than something like a soft tissue or something like that. So I'm like, that's awesome. So fantastic news there. If Aiden plays, that'd be insane. Bobby Lane is a closet Jet fan. Okay. Hey, look, I don't know Bobby Lane like that. You know what I mean? So, how did you break your? I tore. I just I landed wrong. You know what I'm saying? I think that's when I tore. I landed wrong. I had a guy. I was going up for a layup. Got pushed. I was playing basketball. Got pushed while I was in the air. And so when I like landed, and I tried to do too much. Like it was like overextending. I tried to do too much. So I tried to still like make the play while I was in the air. Got pushed, and then I just didn't land. I landed like directly on that right leg, like on my foot, but it just gave out. I don't know. I don't know what was my biggest thing is I don't know what the heck was the build up, and I haven't gotten any answers on like why that would have happened. Like why didn't this happen in the past? I've been knocked down, playing sports for like why now? I don't know. There was some weird build up there, I guess, or maybe it was just like the perfect wrong way to land. Like that's not how you land. You land like that, it's over. And I guess I landed like that. So that's how I did it. But this is better than that. You know what I mean? This is better for Hutch than what that was from my understanding. So that's great. But I don't know. I guess somehow Hutch could be back and actually playing. David Montgomery is expected to play a divisional round, which is amazing. That's fantastic. It's awesome just to hear that. He was able to skip out on surgery. Didn't rush into that. Didn't need surgery. He's got the MCL injury, but it really does sound like he's going to play, which I think after seeing last game, we could use him. We could use him back. So that's awesome. And then what is it? Zeitler, no guarantee Zeitler will play. That's probably the biggest concern. No guarantee that Kevin Zeitler's going to play, but there's a positive news. Like, it's in the positive direction, but there's no guarantee he's going to play yet. We'll just have to wait on that one. Pat O'Connor's not looking great in terms of whether or not his availability is going to be there going forward with the calf injury. That stinks. We're just not that deep on the D-line right now, and he plays everywhere. Like, Pat O'Connor's an unsung hero this season, literally playing nose tackle. That guy, amazing, but that's not great. And then it doesn't sound like Derek Barnes is going to be coming back at any time. Cleo Dorsey kind of on the same path as Hutchinson, though I don't know how that's going to work out. Maybe both of them potentially for the Super Bowl kind of thing. So that's where they're at with the injuries. Oh, yeah, and Carlton, I don't know if I said it, Carlton is not expected to return either. That was the one I was keeping my eye on. That's why I kind of jumped into it. I was like, I want to see what's going on with Carlton, because it was like, okay, he had the jaw surgery. I was like, could you get back from that? I guess not. I guess he's not expected to come back. But Rakestraw could, so at least we get our depth back, which is great. So now we can't have that dunk contest. Ah, man. Well, we could. It'd be a disaster. It'd be a disaster. One of them little hoops that you're taller than one of them numbers. Did you make the shot? I don't think I made the shot. No. Yeah. I should have said yes. That would have been cooler. But no, I'm pretty sure it was a disaster. Look, see, that's why it was a disaster, because I was doing too much. Like, like I was on the right side. I was pretty far out. Yeah, I was feeling myself a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You know how you get like, you're in that mode. You're cooking a little bit. I was cooking a little bit. So I did too much, and it wasn't even close. I think I just threw it off the backboard, which is why it happened, because I wasn't in a good position. See, here's what happened, right? I wasn't in a position to actually make the shot. That's why this whole thing should have never happened. I didn't have the guy beat. Like he was on me, and I just forced it up because I was feeling myself. I'm cooking. I'm making everything. So when I went up for it, I was like, oh, this is not going to happen. And I think that's where I overextended, because I did something I shouldn't have, and that's when I got bumped, and then that's when the thing happened. But yeah, I was doing too much, man. So yeah, keep that in mind. Don't try to do too much. If the shot's not there, just pass it, because you might tear something. Kickboxing and baseball. See, that makes sense. Was baseball sliding, or is it just running? Like, did you fall down or something? That's one for Jared. That's one for Jared. Did I miss something? I must have missed something. If Detroit wins the Super Bowl, I think the party would be on for 4 days. Yeah, that'd be I'm gonna be there. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be there. Okay, I want to go back to this and just kind of touch on it, because this was the one topic that I actually had. But we can talk about it whatever. Throw stuff in the chat. We can discuss it. These are the man coverage stats this season for the Lions secondary. Just the man coverage stats. These are according to Pro Football Focus. I'll have different sources here in a second, and it's pretty darn awesome across the board. Now, not all of them grade out incredibly well. Like Duracell, Alex Anzalone grades out really well in man coverage for them. Terrion doesn't necessarily. Robertson grades better than Terrion, but Terrion has better stats on the season, so sometimes you're just not targeted. Sometimes it's a bad throw, that kind of thing. Like, you could still be beat and not give up the reception. So there's those factors that go into it. But I think that the raw stats tell the most here, because if you look across the board, like, that shows how deep they are. Like, these are their starters, right? Terrion, Robertson, even if you throw Vildor in there, he's only played a small sample. Like, Vildor hasn't been great, but man, his numbers are fantastic. So we could throw Vildor out for a second. Branch. Now, Branch has played more in the slot, so it's changed things a little bit. I couldn't get the exact numbers from slot, though, but he's been doing that. We know Robertson has went wide over the last 3 weeks, and he's been great over the last few weeks. Over the last 3 weeks out wide, Amik Robertson has allowed 18 completions on 17 targets, 0 touchdowns, and I believe 4 pass breakups in that span. Like, majority of his ball production, if not all of his ball production, has been out wide, which makes sense. Like, it's, as we all know, the slot corners, it's difficult for them. They give up usually high completion percentage. They don't get a lot of hands on the football that often. So all of the production really for Robertson has come out wide, which is great. He's translated well there. I think that's what some of us thought he was going to do coming into the year. So this makes sense because Ryan Branch will get his hands on the football from the slot. And then the linebacker position. Like, Alex has been so much. I mean, you can see the numbers for Alex. They're not fantastic. He actually grades out as the best man coverage piece that we have. And I actually have an advanced stat that I just found from PFF on that, which I'm going to go to here in a second. But I showed this because the top line puts it all together. I'll have to grab the exact source. But this is the Lions stats just in man versus zone. Man coverage this season. This is the Lions stats. 53% completion percentage, second best in football. 15 touchdowns to 8 picks. And the best EPA allowed in football in man coverage. So in man, they're fantastic. Versus zone, there's actually a very big gap. Look at zone coverage. 74% completion percentage. That's 27. Now, they're getting a lot of picks there, which is great. Not a lot of touchdowns. Typically, that's where you take the ball away a little bit more. But middle of the pack in EPA. And if you really just focus on EPA, you're first to middle of the pack. So it's a massive difference, all right? And so it makes sense the Lions play so much man because clearly they're built for it. And I think that stat kind of says it all. And I'll go to this one real quick because this kind of expands a little bit more to what I just said because we just looked at PFF. These are their advanced coverage stats, which is a new stat that they have this year, which from my understanding is they take into account everything. So they grade it as if the player was targeted on the play, even if he wasn't. And I don't know exactly how they do it, but they go like, hey, if it's this coverage, if it's cover 1, what's his responsibility? I would assume that'd be very different. So like if it's cover 3 versus cover 1, like which guy's actually in the area, what's his responsibility? And then they take their separation rate. And this is how they would grade out our players in coverage this year. And they do it week by week. They've been doing it week by week. Carlton, he's not available, but he was 18th. That's awesome. Like, he's always been really good in separation stats, man coverage rates, all those things that PFF puts out every year. He's really good there, Carlton is, so that makes sense. But Amika's now 26th. Terrion has moved up to 68th from 76th. Branch is number 5 in the NFL. They have Kirby Joseph at 3rd. Kirby's been amazing this year, and he's been really good at man, too. Alex is now 3rd after just coming back. And Campbell is 11th, which I thought was nuts. Like, so this kind of just puts it together. Like, okay, not first anywhere, and especially at corner. Corner is probably their weakest spot, wide corner. But it's, like, really well-rounded. I mean, there's not a lot of, like, there's no 120. There's no dude that's just getting cooked left and right. So I think just back to the point that was made earlier about the whole Meek Robertson thing, the number 2 guy not cooking, that this graphic tells you why, essentially, because they're well-rounded. They have pieces across the board, and Terrion's played his 2 best games against the Vikings this season. 0 receptions last game. Do you think we played great defensively last week due to matchup, or did Aaron Glenn figure something out? I think it was both. I think that we are unique in the way that we can match up with Minnesota. I think there's similar. That's what I always felt like that with Green Bay, that we would be a tough out for Green Bay because they weren't the same team against man coverage. And there's some stats that do back it up. A little bit less this year, but definitely in the past, it definitely backed it up. But I think that what we were able to, now we'll see. The Rams will be a good test because the Rams play a lot of match coverage, so their stuff looks like man. I don't think that they have the personnel we do. So I think next week's this game Monday is gonna tell a lot, and I would keep an eye on that. If you're just to watch Vikings Rams, see how well the Vikings pass the football. If they're struggling to find guys getting open, it might tell you a lot. But to me, I think it's both. I think it's number 1 is a great plan because nobody plays a lot of man against Minnesota. You know, most of the time teams play zone against man. It's Minnesota. I can show you the stats to that. I have those, but we were unique in the sense that we played a ton of man coverage, which most teams don't do. And then on top of that, like, we have, like I said, the well-rounded unit where most teams can't get to that spot because Jefferson just cooks everybody. He's like the best man coverage beater outside of Saint in football, so that happens. And then they have so many other options, especially with Hawk. Hawk was graded as the best man coverage beater in the NFL going into that game against us. So, like, they were really well-rounded, but I think that speaks more to the fact that most teams won't dare to play that most game. They won't dare to kind of play into that world. And, yeah, I think that we have the personnel that most teams don't, where they're going to have weaknesses. Most teams have weaknesses in the back end. Maybe they're strong in a certain area. We're pretty strong in most areas, especially safety and backer. And at cornerback, we're just well-rounded. And I would say that if there's a position that's toughest to attack, think about this. What is the toughest position probably to attack offensively? If you just line your offense out there and they're in man, the toughest position to consistently have success is probably the wide receivers. It's probably easier to get to your tight end, your backs, or your slot receiver. That's probably much easier to get to those guys. That's why they always allow a higher completion percentage. But it's much tougher to have consistency going to the wide corners. And I think that that's why this kind of leans where it is, where even if the lines aren't the best there, the inside out, the lines are really strong. They're really strong. So again, Hawkinson didn't cook us. They went to Hawk a lot. Alex gave up 2 receptions to Hawkinson in that game. Now, when they lost Aaron Jones, that was kind of a tough loss for them. But again, nobody really got going. Jalen Naylor had like 1 big reception. That was kind of it in the game. Nobody really got anything going outside of that. So Lions I think they're well built for that team, but it was a fantastic plan. And did I do a video on that? I think I did a video. I did a video on that. Yeah, I definitely did a video on that. I did a video on that. I think I put out like Monday. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check that out because we kind of broke down some of the key plays. And my overall thought watching it back was the Lions almost like outsmarted the Vikings without outsmarting the Vikings. You know what I mean? Like the Vikings are so good at getting answers, and Kevin O'Connell's such a good offensive coordinator that this kind of gave me Ben Johnson vibes because like it's like you'll see things like with Minnesota, you'd see things about like, okay, they struggle with this, but there wasn't like a clear cut answer. Like some teams, it's like, all right, if we play 2 deep safeties, they're going to struggle. Jalen Hurts is not the same player against 2 deep safeties. His numbers drop significantly. But against Minnesota, they're a weird team because, like I said, nobody really dares to play man. They're really good against man on the season. I can show you the full season stats. I'll show you them in a second here. And nobody really dares to do it. And then against zone, they're really good too. They have great answers all the time. But I thought for us, we kind of like outsmarted them, but not by like they didn't know what we were doing. They knew we were in man, but they didn't know where the help was. They didn't know where the help was going on the play. And because we're well-rounded enough, they couldn't just get out there and pick on somebody left and right. And I think because of that, and Amik stepped up to the challenge, he kind of just dealt with Justin Jefferson. You put Terry on Jordan Addison, who he did awesome against. I mean, he just showed up like straight up like I'm a legitimate coverage piece. If I'm not breaking down in coverage, like I can take the dude away, and he did that. So yeah, I think it's both. But it was a great plan. I thought Aaron Glenn was the best because of the expectation. Because of what I had seen all year, nobody's made that offense look like that. This was the best game I think that Aaron Glenn has put out there. And it was perfect because I think it was so good because of all these stats I'm showing you, like these advanced man coverage stats, because Aaron Glenn had a plan that also not only was so good against that team, but it was so good to what he had. Like, I don't think every team can play that way, but it was so good for what we are. And let me show you an example of that. So I have this other graphic. Look at this graphic. This graphic's crazy. I'm going to show you all this. This is crazy. I think we played Minnesota. If we played Minnesota 2 weeks, do you think AG copy and paste gameplay? I think so. I think there'd be a lot of the same things. I think it'd be aggressive. I think he'd play a lot of man again, and I think he'd utilize his moving safeties because I don't think that there's like a great. Now, I think what they could do is maybe have more design motion to just try to create leverage like they did in the red zone a couple times where they didn't throw it. I think they left things out there, but I think you could try to create more clear-cut answers for Sam Darnold. But if the Lions are stopping the run and that's not going, because really even the Vikings guys said outside of one run it really wasn't there, offensively I think you have to create more defined answers. But based on how they play, they don't constantly do that. So I think he'd come out with a very similar plan. I think he played a very similar strategy against that team because outside of like, hey, we can create some like 2-man routes and then you just kind of shorten it like, hey, go here or here. Like pick one of the two and just throw it. Outside of just being more decisive, I don't think that it was the Vikings did it. It wasn't like the Vikings had never seen that coverage. That was very basic stuff the Lions were throwing at him. It was just like either man here and this guy's helping here or it's too deep or it's nobody deep, or it's blitzing everybody. It was just a rotation of that constantly, and then it was just a little sprinkle of here's some zone, deal with this. It's a little bit of different. Let's throw you a little bit of zone at this spot, and I think that just threw everything off. And it was a fantastic plan. The red zone defense was really good, but the red zone defense has been good going back to last year in the playoffs. The Lions are constantly good in the red zone. Speaking to that, look, they allow the third lowest completion percentage in the red zone, and you can see the end zone throws, 6 interceptions, so they'll take the ball away there too. And the red zone defense has gotten to another level, I think, especially when Alex comes back, because it was like last year when Jalen came back. When the linebacker position's healthy, the red zone defense is even better because it's so much about communication. It's all tight window stuff. And with, I think, Alex back, Trevor did really well in the red zone too. They've been a really good red zone team for essentially over a year now. They've been really good in that spot. They're very, for as young as they are, like on paper, this is a very veteran group that just constantly been on the field, a lot of these guys. Now, these are the stats, though, and this is what ties it together. This is what's crazy. This is the Lions' man coverage, and I broke it down into coverage types. This is how good they've been in man this season. And I think this is really important. Single high, right? Single high meaning a single high safety. Most of the times they're getting an extra body to stop the run. And Lions in single high coverage this year, which is typically the spot where you want to throw the ball against teams because you get isolated one-on-ones on the outside. It's more clear cut there. Not always, right? You could have a single high and they could roll out of it and give help, right? You could go cloud coverage. So there's ways to not give that. But typically, especially the way the Lions play it, we know Lions single high is usually just cover 3 or cover 1. They're pretty straightforward. They don't do a lot of the cloud stuff. Single high typically is like guaranteeing one-on-ones on the outside. And for the Lions this season in coverage where you typically would throw against that, 4th completion percentage allowed, 8 touchdowns to 10 picks, 5th best in EPA, and they have the 5th most pass attempts, which means they're doing it a ton. And then, this stat's nuts too. Without pressure, so we're thinking like, yo, they got to be getting pressure all the time. When the Lions haven't gotten pressure, look at their stats. The completion percentage goes up. So typically you're going to get completions when teams don't get pressure, 68%. But 15 touchdowns to 13 picks, 4th best in EPA, and again, the 6th most attempts. So this happens a lot. Those two stats are crazy. And then if you go sub, okay, what type of coverage? I mean, cover 0, 9th in completion percentage allowed, 2nd best EPA. Cover 1, 3rd completion percentage, 7th best EPA. 2-man, 4th in completion percentage, best EPA in football. And I think we saw that against Minnesota. They are awesome in 2-man. They're built to play it. I think they're so comfy there because we all know that they have press corners. Like, that's where they're built. Every corner they have is like a press corner. So I think it makes them super comfortable to just go get physical, throw off timing. Amik just wants to battle dudes. And that's why Amik was great, because Amik didn't care. Like, Amik would get cooked over top, and he don't care, man. That dude just wants to battle. He's just going to throw himself at Justin over and over. So he was perfect for that, because then if you slid help over top, he could just be that aggressive bulldog at the line of scrimmage. And I think that's why 2-man works so well. It's been such a good spot. It's just there's a lot of teams you can't get there because teams will run the football. And what I think is so important about tying this all together is this last stat line, because now you tie in coverage to run defense. And if you look at what the Lions do, when they have a stacked box, they're a really strong run defense. 3.6 a carry, 14th in EPA. I don't know why I put expected there. It's supposed to be EPA. But when the box is not stacked, look at that. They allow 5.6 yards per carry, 26th in EPA, almost 1,000 yards rushing. That's really important because that typically ties right together with single high coverage. So the Lions' ability to play single high coverage to be so good there and have this well-rounded unit that can play man allows them to give more stacked looks than not stacked looks, which, as we see by the numbers, would be a really big problem if they had to lean into that. So it's in a lot of ways, like, the coverage is kind of the reliable unit for us right now. Like, the coverage is kind of the thing that we can hang our hats on, which is crazy, but that's why the title is like it is. That's what they can hang their hats on as a defense is, yo, in coverage, we're sound. And we're well-rounded, so it can actually help our run defense. It actually makes our pressure better because we don't maybe get a ton of pressure all the time. We're not one of the top teams there. We blitz a lot, but it makes everything else better because we don't get exposed in the back end by doing something like that. We play single high safety. We don't get exposed. We're one of the best in football. So we aren't exposed when we don't get pressure. It's crazy. But this has like been a culmination of what they built, and we're not even talking about the starter. Like, Carlton is not out there. Carlton is a normal starter, right? Like, It's not even a fully starting unit that we thought coming into the year. It's not even that. It's Trevor Nowaski out there at times. But it's such a deep group right now. And it's almost like, it makes me think like if you're building a team like on Madden or something, and you know how they have that like weird thing where it's like, well, what type of corner is he? Is he man or zone? You know, that kind of stuff. And you're like, well, if you get all of them together, you get like a boost. That's what it feels like the Lions have. It's like they put everybody together that fits the same style, and they all get a boost because they all do the same thing really well. So when they ask them to play a certain coverage, everybody kind of excels in that room, and it makes it tough for an offense. And I think that's what happened to the Vikings here, is they ran up against a team that could do this. I'll tell you what, the Rams, these aren't their stat lines. This is not what it looks like. This is unique to the line. Most teams don't have this across the board. This is unique. And I got more graphics to go, but I want to see what the chat's talking about. Is Glenn getting coaching offers? Glenn has, well, I don't know if he's getting offers, but he's definitely getting interviews. I think if he leaves, the most likely team, it sounds like, is Saints. But I'm not as caught up on that. Like, I have the team names, but I'm not as caught up as some of other people. So if y'all are caught up on that, man, throw it out there. Where do y'all think guys are going? I mean, y'all can get that conversation going. I think if Glenn leaves, he goes to the Saints, unless the Jets bring in his GM. Maybe that's Spielman. I mean, maybe that's Newmark, something like that. Getting Anzalone back, huge. Anzalone's such a dog, man. And it's what it is, man, because it's exactly that point. Like, when Jack was without Alex, Jack would get some of those straight man assignments, and he wasn't great there, even though he grades out at his 11th, according to PFF, in terms of like his advanced coverage grade that they're now putting out there. He's 11th. There's a role that fits him better. And that's exactly it. It's like when you have Alex, his role is much more clarified. It's more zone. It's more roaming the middle. When you have him in man all the time, Buffalo, that's not where he's best. And the thing is with Alex is that Pro Football Focus even said that over their years of grading, Alex has constantly been one of the best linebackers in football in terms of separation allowed. Like, he doesn't give up much separation ever. So he's been, I mean, he goes back to the beginning. He was like one of the first building blocks. It's cool because it's been a constant process. Like, think about this. Think about if the Lions would have fired Aaron Glenn like a year and a half or 2 years into this. Like, how things would have potentially changed with personnel, and you would have had to reset things. Like, this usually happens as a whole. You know, new GM, new head coach, everything kind of restarts. And you're like, all right, which guys do we keep? That kind of deal. And we had to do that when these guys first got here. But if like you would have fired the defensive coordinator, and because nobody calls defense like Glenn. He plays man coverage 60.7% of the time. Now, the Denver Broncos actually tied with that at 60.7%, interestingly enough. But essentially, nobody else plays that style. 60% of the time, he plays man. Most teams play 70% zone. So it's great. He's super unique. But if you would have, like, fired that guy 2 years in, and then you would have had the overlap of, like, okay, we have this guy, and then what if you would have had Branch added too, and then you're like adding pieces, but then a new guy comes in and he's like, I actually play a lot more zone. I play like more straight cover 3. And then you'd be like, well, how does a Meek fit it? So now you would have had some weird overlap. Then you would have had to make this transition. The Lions have never had a transition. It's been a constant build where it's like, all right, Alex, okay, we got him. Then we throw Jack, and now it's like, all right, these two guys fit perfectly together. You know, like the guys offset each other perfectly. And then at cornerback, it's like that. Now, cornerback's been a complete overhaul, but safety, Brian Branch, he fits really well with Ivi Melavanu. Like, once those two teamed up, it's like these two are great together. Like, they've been able to constantly kind of build that year after year after year, which I think is awesome. I think it's really awesome. And I don't think a lot of teams have that. Like, a lot of teams, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces, and that's where we've always wanted to be as Lions fans. That team that's like, yo, we have consistency. we have the same kind of group of guys. We have the core, and it's not changing, and we can continue to build towards the same direction. And I think it's all kind of like a accumulation of that at this point. Plus, Glenn has just gotten better. I'm sorry to him, but if we've gotten Brian Flores in 22, I would have been for it. Yes, Goff cooks him, but he's more creative than NG. So you're saying if we would have got Brian Flores in 2022, it would have been better than Aaron Glenn? I think that the thing is they're very two unique styles, right? I show you the single high rates, definitely very different. Brian Flores and the Vikings have one of the largest two high rates, and Brian Flores is great. And you're saying Goff cooks him, but he's more creative. He's definitely I would say, I think I'd agree. Like, more, if we're saying more creative in terms of more diverse, I'd give you that. Now, I do think though, I think there's more movement typically. I think there's typically more movement, and I don't know where Brian Flores was probably ahead of Glenn when he first started, no doubt. Glenn has, to me, gotten a lot better, and he's definitely clearly gotten his pieces now, and he's gotten better year after year. Again, the stats backed it up. Year after year after year, you can buy into, like, oh, this guy's gotten consistently better. But I would say, yeah, I agree. Brian Flores is probably more creative. There's more movement, typically post-snap. But he has a very similar plan in a lot of his games as well. Like he still has the foundation of who he is, right? There's creativity at the line in terms of who's blitzing, who's not. But I think at early this season that got a little bit overblown to the point where it was like, we've never seen that before. And it was like, okay, well, timeout. Teams have always done this, and teams still do this. Green Bay does this. Go watch Green Bay on third down. Their defense is the same thing, right? You don't know who's coming. Everybody stacks the line. So teams have always done that. I think that they are creative in the sense that they still play a lot of cover 3, but they do it out of two high looks. That's where I think things get weird for them, is they have so much safety movement on most plays. I think that's where things are creative. And because of all the safety movement, their cornerbacks will play safety and their safeties will roll down. That's where I think they're more creative, is that there's not a lot of teams that do that. So yeah, I'd agree. I think the Lions are more straightforward typically. Like they have more kind of defined roles. With Minnesota, it's less, I think, defined. It's more about like, yo, Harrison could go play outside corner on this snap, and then Stephon Gilmore's playing safety, and then Van Ginkel's dropping, but here comes Grenard. Like there's more of that. I think Glenn's a little bit more straightforward, but Glenn has been unique. Like he didn't play the Packers the same way that he played the Vikings. He's been unique, and he's definitely gotten better. It's more beat me every play versus high risk, high reward. This is what scares me about this year. It's more beat me every play, high risk, reward. I don't agree with that. If I'm being honest, if you're talking about like this, I don't think that's how the Lions. I think that's been the push. I don't think that's completely true, but I think there's a number that gives credit to what you're saying, which is we give up a pretty high explosive play rate. It's like just over 10%. It's not the worst, but it's pretty high. So there is that. And I think just in general, if you're going to play single high safety, yes, you have a chance to get exposed over top. And that's why that's so important, because teams typically, if they're playing that, are going to get cooked in coverage. But the fact that the Lions in single high are so good in coverage is what makes them pretty unique, because they can do that, which is typically going to help them against the run, which as we see, it definitely does. But most teams, that's not what you want to do, because you're going to get cooked in coverage. But I think like the narrative in some ways kind of came out of that game is like the Lions blitzed every play, and that's what they always do. They blitz a lot, but I could say Minnesota's more of that. Minnesota blitzes more than anybody, right? Minnesota just does it in the opposite way, where Minnesota will give you high efficiency because Minnesota will play too deep and then blitz you like crazy. So they don't have anybody underneath. So it's like there's always a push-pull to it. I don't think there's a ton of teams that just kind of sit in like a standard, hey, we're playing cover 2, there's nothing happening. I guess there's some teams, maybe Tampa Bay's a little bit more straightforward. Tampa Bay blitzes a lot too, though. There's always a push-pull too. You're always going to give up something. But the one thing that typically doesn't give up anything is man coverage, because at very least someone should be matched up on him. Whether he has help or not, someone should always have somebody matched up with him. Somebody always should. So that's the one thing that his man coverage actually does, is it actually limits where most teams are going to give windows. Like if you watch Minnesota, they a lot of times have one underneath the defender or 3 underneath defenders versus 5. And they're constantly bringing 6-man rushes, and it leaves massive holes underneath. So it allows for Goff to have a 78.5% completion percentage when he plays them, because he'll play them the right way. But yeah, I mean, and then even to that stat, like I showed, we're not even getting pressure in a lot of these spots. You know what I mean? Like if you look at us without pressure. This is without pressure. It's fantastic. 4th EPA, basically a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. The completion percentage is high. That will always be higher when you're not getting pressured, no doubt. But 6 most attempts, like that's a really good coverage line for a team that when they're not getting pressure. Now I did have other graphics. I showed that one. What was this one? I don't know what this one was. I'm gonna be honest. I think this was just our man coverage versus other teams. Let me come back to that one. I don't remember that one was. I don't know why there's a big circle on the screen, but let me go to this graphic. I don't know why there's a big circle on the screen. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what that is. I probably should try to get rid of that. I don't know. Yeah. Well, it's circling the A, so that's something. All right. Okay. Hey, A plus. Stop. I don't know what that is. But this was something I put together. Now I didn't approach this knowing what I was going to find, and I wouldn't say I found like a clear-cut answer exactly, but I thought it was interesting. I thought this was just interesting. Passing against man coverage this season. I have 2 of these. So I wanted to see how well teams actually pass against man. But the issue I laid out is what I laid out before, which is I don't think a team like the Rams could come in and do what the Lions did last week. I don't think it would work. I think the Vikings would torch them. I think they would torch the Rams if they try to play that style all game long. That said, though, I just wanted to see, how do the playoff teams do when they have to throw against man coverage? And so, like, first off, I just threw this in here. These are the Lions' stats against man this season. This top row, that's the Lions passing against man. That's insane. The Lions have over a 100 EPA when throwing against man. It's ridiculous. Including almost 70% of their passes, 26 touchdowns, 2 picks. It's insane throwing against man this season. But the other teams, I tried to highlight where I thought they were better, man or zone. Like, for example, Tampa's in the playoffs. We could end up with Tampa in the first round. I think if all the favorites win, we end up with Tampa. I think that's how. No, they're a 3 seed. Take that back. No, there's really no path for us playing Tampa first, I don't think. But anyways, Tampa, better against zone than they are against man coverage. I think based on the stats here, the EPA is much higher. Philadelphia is probably better against man than zone, and I think Philadelphia is pretty straightforward. Why? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Like, if you play man coverage against that team, they just win. But that's the same argument that's typically made with this team, Minnesota. And we just saw, like, these are now look, this includes last game. This is Minnesota stats against man on the season. 63% completion percentage, which he completed less than 50 against us. 25 touchdowns to 4 picks, and a 62.4 EPA. That's awesome. They're better in man than against zone. Look at their numbers against zone. So that's what I'm saying. This was a very unique plan that the Lions had against Minnesota, because if you look at those numbers, you're like, yeah, play a lot of zone against that team, right? That's where you get the ball taken away. And the first time that we played Minnesota, I remember one of the things in my game plan was like, yo, third down and long, a lot of zone. Because I think that's where he'll turn the ball over. He'll throw it high. He'll try to force into a window, trying to push it down the field. And while that was still on the table to do that, it wasn't even about that. It was more so just like, we're going to play man most of the time. So as good as those numbers look, it's because most teams can't match up with them. Most teams can't match up with them, which, again, to me gives credit to the Lions and what they can do. But a team like Washington, way better against, well, I wouldn't say way better, but they're better against zone, even though they play a lot more man. It seems like they get a lot more man thrown at them. And then a team like Green Bay, even Green Bay's got a higher EPA against man coverage, but we play man against them too. So I think this graphic, the biggest takeaway I had from this was like, yo, most teams can't do what we were able to do. Now, the Rams, for example, way better against zone. They complete like a 15% higher completion percentage rate when they're playing zone than man. So I think that really outside of our division, most teams are better against zone than man. Really outside of our division, statistically. But the problem is that within our division, we play those teams. We play man against them. We have success against them. So it's a weird thing, but I think it just speaks to the Lions are unique. The Lions are unique in the way that they could play. I'm trying to figure out what this graphic was. Lions man coverage. I think that this was kind of just an extension of the last thing that I showed here. I think that's what this was. I think, I could double check on this. But based on what I'm looking at, I think this is everybody's past defensive stats. And this is the Lions in man versus everybody else, versus the other playoff teams in man coverage. We showed their stats, how good they are in man. Look at this EPA. This is first by a mile. This second in EPA was like 27. It was like they were first by a mile in EPA when they're in man versus who was in second. So you can see they're better than all the playoff teams. When they're trying to play man coverage, this kind of speaks right to it. Like, uniquely, they're way better in this spot than everybody else. I think that kind of, like, if the last graphic to add it to this one, they're unique in the way that they can actually play teams. And then I already showed that one. And then I already showed that one. I don't know what's next here. Oh, I already showed that one too. Yeah. So it's wild. It's a wild look. And I even grabbed some man plays if you were going to look at them. But like I said, that was really only prepared for 30 minutes. So I feel like we would have been pretty close. We'd have been pretty close to that 30-minute mark if that's what I would use this for. But it's all right. I was going to save it. I don't need to save it. I'll find something new next week to talk about. Vikes are good at run stopping, turnovers, and sacks, but get burned on big passes. I think y'all play different against us than other teams too. You know what I mean? Like, I think you guys play different against us. I think you guys try to dare us to run a little bit more than you do other teams. I think Harrison Phillips is your best run defender by far. I think outside of that, like you saw, you give up explosive against the run because of how you play it. I'm interested to see how that matches up, Alex, because on one side, I think that the Rams stylistically could run well against y'all, like could run well against the Vikings. The other side is, I always think the Vikings have a better run defense because I think they play different against us. But typically we can run the ball against Minnesota. We just really didn't run that well last week because we didn't have Monty, which I think hurt us a lot. The Lions' ability against Sam Darnold very quickly was impressive. It was, man, they were coming after him, man. And I think that ties together. It's kind of like the opposite, right? I mean, if you look at it, Minnesota kind of did the opposite. They blitzed a lot, but they played a lot of zone too. So they had windows that they were giving up. It was just, could we find those windows? You know what I mean? Like, that's where they got opportunistic. And then we found some good answers late in that game. We adjusted things. Appreciate you, JT. Hey, Dose, we will be in the big dance. I love that. We will more than likely win that, our first Super Bowl. Man, like, fan man, I hope you're right, man. I hope you're right, bro. I'm here for it. You know what I mean? I'm going to enjoy it, though. Like, I'm going to enjoy this weekend's games. I'm going to enjoy watching these other teams play. And I just want to handle business. Because I think I was going to do, and I may do this next week because we'll know. I'll definitely do it next week. I'll go into who we're playing. But I was going to do my initial idea for this segment was like talk about who we could play. And I was like, I don't really know that I want to do that. Because every team's super unique, but I think every team that we could end up with is going to be tough. You know, obviously, if we end up with Minnesota, that's going to be a handful again. We'll know what to expect, but it's going to be a lot. Green Bay, they're a handful, especially offensively. And if they beat Philly, they would have done something right. Hope we play Washington next. That's what I'm thinking. I actually think we're going to end up with Washington. If you didn't see my prediction video, I think Washington wins over Tampa. I think they definitely can win over Tampa. And if that's the case, we're probably going to see them unless Green Bay pulls an upset too. So I think Washington is probably might be the best matchup for us, maybe, but in some ways they're kind of not. They're kind of unique as a team. Thoughts on the Pistons? So, hey, Pistons doing their thing. Now, last night, lost to the Warriors, and the Warriors didn't play well, so it's disappointing. I don't keep up with them like a guy like King, but I've been keeping up with him. I think that dropped him back to 500 after losing that. So, look, man, it's been impressive, though. Like, and you know, with how many teams get in, you just got to put together a little bit of a run. I think looking at their upcoming schedule, they have a chance to put a run together. That team, I'll be honest, that team has a dude right now, and Cade, like he's consistent buckets. I think that team could get into the 8th seed. I think that, or not even 8th seed, forget that, it's a play-in. They'll get a play-in spot. I think they'll get a play-in spot this year. Eagles look kind of scary. I want to see the Eagles, man. I want to see what the Eagles look like because I don't know how they're going to play against Green Bay. Like, that's one of the weirder ones. I could see Green Bay winning that football game. If Green Bay won that game, I don't think I'd be shocked. I think Philly does win because I don't trust the way that Philly plays. But as good as, like, they have the best graded secondary in football this year, and a lot of it's their linebacker room. They gave up a lot of points last time they played Green Bay. I think you can put points on Philly as good as their pass defense looked. I think you can put points on them. I'm gonna be interested to see how well Josh Jacobs rushes. Like, is he having any success? Because I think if Josh Jacobs rolls a little bit, that thing could absolutely go the Packers' way. I just want to see if there's any success. Because there's no Watson, so they don't have that. I just want to see if he can run the ball at all without Watson being out there. That's what I'm looking forward to. Because I know they got pieces in the back end. They're pretty well-rounded as well. And they've got a lot of young guys playing really well. They're more zone-driven. I just want to see what that's going to look like with Josh Jacobs. Like, can he run the football? It's a good offensive line in Green Bay. It's not really full of people movers, but they don't get sacked very much. And they take a lot of shots. So I think if Josh Jacobs runs the ball, even if they lose, it'll show like, all right, you can put points on this team. If they shut down the run though, then I think they look real scary. They'll look real scary. That's how I think that would kind of come about. Yeah, no Jair too. And that's the thing. Like, there's a way to attack. Philly. Like, Philly doesn't pass the ball extremely well when they have to deal with two deep safeties. But can you stop the run if you do that? And I think that Green Bay potentially could find some success there. Green Bay, to me, I think their coaching has to be really good. And I'm not going to sit here like I watch all their All-22, but the games that I have done that with, I think their coaching's got to be on point in two ways. I think, one, they have to be very willing to just take the easy throws, take the checkdowns, keep the chains moving. I feel like they constantly become, oh, we got to take this shot. And it's like, dude, stop doing that. All right, I'm okay with it, but especially without Watson, stop doing that. You don't need a home run. Just go get positive. And I thought the first time they played Minnesota, they didn't do that. Just play positive. And on the defensive side, I think they're going to need a lot of those inverted Tampa 2 looks. They didn't do that much at all against us. They've shown it times this year, and it's been very tough for teams to deal with. And then they just stopped using it. They have to, I think, use that a lot against Philly, because Philly doesn't do well with 2D players, and they can use that inverted look to potentially help them more against the run, while also still keeping two deep safeties. And I think that would be tough for Philly to deal with. I don't know how well that D line's going to perform. I assume it's not going to be great for Green Bay. Maybe Kenny Clark cooks a little bit. Can one of those guys, Wyatt's playing, I think, can one of those guys cook a little bit against Mekhi Becton? Maybe. But I don't think they'll be dominant up front. Edgerrin Cooper, though, he's gonna slow them down. And I think they just need to be creative on defense. They can't be very stagnant on defense. I think they get stagnant, they're gonna lose. They could get blown out. I don't think they have the pieces without Jair to match up. Nixon could take the ball away, though, and you do that with Jalen Hurts by creating some confusion. And I think they can create confusion. They've done it this year. They just have to be creative. And I think offensively, can't look for the home run, can't put your defense on a 3 and out and then put your defense back on the field against that team. The clock's going to run away from you. I don't think they're built to stop the run left and right. They'll get some plays. I don't think they're built to. They have to keep the clock on their side, and they have to do that by just being efficient. They got to stop looking for the shot plays. I think if they're looking for shot plays, they'll get beat. They'll turn the ball over. Blankenship will take one away. They got too many good secondary players. Slay might go get him one. Is Slay even still playing? I don't even know if Slay's still playing. But I think that's where I'm at with it. Just, they got to play a smart game. I don't think they've constantly played a smart game this season, and I think they get too aggressive. Spencer, I see you, Spencer. Ford Field's insane. you could see the tear on Darnold. Dude, Darnold looked. One bar saw it too. I didn't know if that was like a normal thing. It's like, bro, Darnold looks like he's kind of messed up right now. Like the dude looks like he's hit a couple energy drinks. I don't know. You know what I mean? But one bar's like, yeah, he did look a little crazy. So I guess that's not normal. He did look crazy. I saw Darnold's face and I said to myself, hey, bro, he looked crazy. I was like, okay. He was amped, bro. Too much. Way too much. Some of the throws still mind-blowing to me. I still watch him today. I'm like, I don't know why he didn't throw that. Like, I don't know what the dude was looking at. I saw your predictions. A lot of upsets. There is some upsets in there. You know what I mean? There's some upsets. I'm confident, though. Like, I felt good about that. I felt good. I always feel good, though. And then I'm usually, like, terrible in my picks. I think I'm going to go 6-0, though. Like, I got a sense I'm going to get every pick right. I feel really good. I think the Buffalo won. I think that's a good matchup. Like, I feel good. Probably gonna be wrong on most of them though. Throw your picks in the comments of that one if you haven't, Spencer. I want to see how you do, or you can throw them in the chat now. I want to see. Rams versus Minnesota will tell us a lot. I think Minnesota's gonna handle them, man. I think Minnesota's gonna handle it. I think it's gonna be a lot of points. I think that'll be like the shootout. That'll be an excellent game to cap the weekend. But I don't think the Rams can hang with Minnesota, man. I don't think they can, bro. I'd be cool with seeing it. Like if the Rams want to go handle business, I ain't mad at it. You know what I mean? Get the Vikings out. I'm cool with that. But I don't think they can hang. I don't think they can hang, man. I think the Vikings will score 35 on them. That's my thoughts. But it's always weird to count out Stafford in that offense, especially considering they've already beat them once this year. It's like, and their D-line is definitely built to cook that Vikings front. I just don't think they can keep up with them. Rams, Redskins, Philly. Oh, you're taking the Rams, you're taking Washington, and you're taking Philly. So we agree on 2 of the 3. Never played this level of game as starter? No. Most neglected to comment on the obvious fact and continue to pick Minnesota. Hey, it's crazy. But, you know, it was good for him. I think it should be good for him. If he's that dude, it's okay to have those. You know what I mean? He's really never had, like, a coach that's, like, stuck with him, a team that's stuck with him. They've obviously supported him player-wise. You know, they've really never had that. He's never had a really good, stable situation. That could be a really good loss for him, man. And I don't want to see it because they do a lot of things good already. Like, that was a rare game for Sam Darnold this year. He's had a couple slumps, but he's only had about 3 or 4 of those on the entire year. And most of the other games, he's been awesome. So, if anything, I think that should be good for him. You know what I mean? And I think that LA's a good challenge because they'll give you some similarities. They're going to match guys up, but I don't think they have the players to deal with it. And that's why I think Darnold's going to go crazy. I think Darnold's going to go crazy against that team. It'll be a great bounce back for him. Yeah, and it's in Arizona. Who does that help? I don't know who that helps, but it's terrible to hear that. All the fires and stuff, it's awful. I have no idea I'll enjoy that game fully. Yeah, I'm with it. These games are awesome this week. Philly and Rams. So you taking Philly and Rams? Y'all taking Rams? Is everybody taking the Rams? Look, and yo, is everybody taking the Rams this week? I ain't gonna call y'all haters or nothing. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna call y'all haters or nothing. Because I get it if you just taking the Rams, but I think a lot of people like truly believe the Rams are going to win this game. The spread is like 2.5. Spencer's thinking the Vikes. I'm with you. Bucks. Ooh, okay. Eagles, Chargers. That's the one. I want to see that one. That's the one. I know you taking the Vikings. That's the one that I'm really circling though. Outside of like that, obviously the great Monday night game. It's Texans Chargers. That one's going to be fire. I think that game's going to be fire. I want to see Harbaugh win. I hate that I picked against him, but I think I still think it's in there for the Texans to go cook. I still think the Texans still got some things. So I'm excited to see that one. I think that one would be good. Ravens, Bills, division. Oh, you went the full division. Lions, Eagles. So you got the Lions beating Washington. Oh, no, you don't have Washington. Who do we be playing there? The Vikings? We play the Vikings? You had the Lions beating the Vikings. Then you have the Eagles, AFC, Bills, Kansas City and Bills. Yep, it'd be just all the favorites, man. I mean, it feels like it could. Lions, Bills, Super Bowl, Lions. Oh man, that'd be a game. I think a lot of people would root for that. If they don't have a team that they're actually rooting for, I think a lot of people would be on board with that. Rams, I'm taking Vikes. Trust Stafford over Darnold. Rams. Think that we're getting Rams, Lions. That'd be crazy. That would be crazy. I'm here for it, bro. I ain't worried about the Rams at this point. I don't think the Rams are the same team they were last year, bro. I'm down to run it with the Rams again. I have no concern with the Rams. I have no concern, but it's just, bro, the NFC's tough. Eagles, Rams, Commanders, Bills, Chargers, Ravens. So you taking the Rams too? Commanders? I see you with the Commanders. That one feels like the most split one is Commanders, Bucks. Is where everybody's leaning on that one. Bills, Chargers. I think most people are going Chargers. I don't think anybody's taking the Texans. A healthy except for me. I think a healthy Stafford with Kupp and Puka. Why they win? They won a lot. They have a great record when those dudes are healthy. When Kyron, Puka, and Stafford are healthy, I think Kupp gets thrown in there too. They have an incredible record. Rams, the word on the street is the Vikings just caught their second batch of Honolulu flu. That is the concern, though. Coming off that, not having any time in between, you got to go right into that game. Teams are terrible off of the loss to us, or off a game versus us. That is a concern. I'm over the Stafford Goff convo. We show him what it is. Okay, I say, hey, he's going to come back, though, if we play with the chip. You know what I mean? We got to go get our Super Bowl. And the convo is officially done. You know what I mean? I still think the convo is interesting. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this just because we're live. If anybody didn't see my show from Wednesday on Bleach Report, still check it out. But I did have this graphic, and I'm just going to show it quick because it makes me think of that. And also, I think yesterday's video was the best. I think yesterday's video I dropped for Goff was like my favorite video I've done in a while. I loved it. I thought it came out fantastic. So definitely check that one out. We go through some of the Vikings film and Goff doing his thing. I actually think I ended up changing the title on that because I didn't know how to title it. I was like, I love this. I just don't know what the heck to title this thing. It's weird. But there's this graphic I put together. So on Wednesday, the MVP votes were coming in. And I think we have the All-Pros. We have to look at that. And I was like, can I make an argument for Goff as the MVP? And I went through and I'm like, I don't think I can make a great argument here. He's not going to win the MVP. He's got better stats really across the board than Josh, but he lost to Josh. But, you know, the head-to-head thing doesn't completely make sense because of the whole Lamar thing. So I was like, I don't think I make a great case for this dude actually winning the MVP. But I can make the case of why he is the MVP in the Lions' eyes. Like, I think I can make that make sense. And the way that I did it was like this. Let me see if I got the graphic. I hope I have the graphic. I just got to get to it. There's like 100 pages in here. It's actually 400 pages in here. Okay, we're almost there. Let me see. Is this one here? Here. Okay, here it is. So this was the graphic I used. And I'll just show this. I'm not going to go into the full thing because that video is separate. You can check that out. It's free. Just download the app. This graphic right here. This was why Goff is the MVP to the Lions. And I was like, this makes a ton of sense. Like, I don't feel like a lot of times people take this perspective. The Goff trade matters, I think, when you look at it. Like, if we're really looking at it, the Goff trade should matter. Goff was traded to the Lions for Stafford, including a first-round pick, and a third-round pick. And the Lions turned those picks into that. They turned it into that. And here's why I think this matters. Because the argument a lot of people have made for Josh Allen over Lamar, which I don't like the argument anyways, but a lot of people have made it, is that Josh Allen's supporting cast is not as good as Lamar Jackson's. And same thing, Goff has a better supporting cast, all that. Even though you could argue the offensive line for both those teams has been better this year, especially in pass pro, especially the Bills. But that's the argument. And I think that if you take this into account, people won't, and I understand why, but I think you can take a look at this from a perspective of Goff was traded and we were given these picks in return because the idea was that it was a downgrade, essentially. Like, the upgrade was essentially, in their minds, plus the age thing, worth 2 first-round picks in the third, plus you were getting younger at quarterback. So that's what it was worth. And in return, the Lions added all these dudes, right? That should matter in the Goff MVP conversation. Because if we're going to say that Josh Allen's supporting cast isn't as good, well, hold up. The idea was that Goff was at a certain level, so it took these picks to make the thing happen, right? Well, Goff has played so well. He's played himself statistically into the MVP conversation. He's better than Josh Allen across the board. He's played himself into that conversation. Plus, he came with these picks with him. And so most of these picks where the argument is usually like, well, how many first-round picks does Josh play with? And it's like, okay, Amari Cooper's a first-round, but they traded for him. Khalil Shakur's a fifth-round pick. And then you have, who else? Even Mac Hollins, he's undrafted. You have Dalton Kincaid, who was a first-round pick. James Cook, who was a third-round pick, I think it was. So, like, that's the supporting cast, and they have a really good O-line. But you can still say Lions, yeah, they invested more on the offensive side. But if you take this into consideration, and then you look at it like this, the Lions supporting cast, essentially taking the picks out from the trade, would be St. Brown and Penei Sewell. All of these other guys came from the trade, Laporta, Gibbs, and Williams. So to me, that actually should serve as a benefit to Goff, because the expectation is like, all right, the only way that we can make this even is we have to give you all these picks. Now, obviously, Brad deserves credit for drafting these guys and all those things, but that's the only way that this trade is fair, basically, is we have to give you these draft picks to make this make sense. And then they ate some money, and they gave us Michael Brockers. So even more that was thrown into it. But I think that should serve as a nod to Goff. Like, wait a minute, you brought all these picks with you, and you're playing at this super high level. Like, we can't knock you for the supporting cast when the supporting cast is there because essentially you're there. The supporting cast didn't just show up. It's there because someone said that you're not as valuable straight up. This guy's more valuable than you. So we're going to give you all this in return. To me, that's a nod to Goff. Like, wait a minute. He's playing at that crazy high level, and he brought all these dudes with him. So it should be looked at as a knock, because he brought these dudes with him, basically, by the trade. I think that's a crazy perspective to look at it from, but it's something to think about. Because I never thought about it until I did that video. I'm like, this makes sense, though. Like, I don't feel like you should knock the guy for a supporting cast when pretty much every top pick that people reference is there because he's there. Is there because the trade went down. If people thought they were even and he brought none of these guys in, would he look the same? Maybe not. Maybe not. He might not be in the same spot. But then, at that point, you would have been saying that, yeah, they're on the same level. And we know that the MVP is not about being on the same level, because guys that have worse stats, Mahomes, most people would take number one. He's not going to win the MVP because of his stats. You know what I'm saying? So he's not going to win the MVP because of his stats are not there. Goff has the winning that's there. I don't think that the main knock for Goff should just be his supporting cast. I think that's not fair, because Goff brought those guys with him. He would require AP voters, media personalities, to admit they were wrong about him. That's tough. No, that's actually tough. Okay. All right. I see you. Hey, drop the mic. Okay. I see you. That was tough. I don't know. I did a full show on Wednesday. I really went into it, but I thought that was like a super interesting perspective to look at. And I actually wanted to see who the all-pro players were. We had, I think Sewell was an all-pro. I saw that. I haven't even looked at it yet, though. So before we, move off of this, I want to see who's the all-pro. How many, we had 4? Oh, snap. If we docked the supporting cast for Bryce Young, supporting cast, Bryce Young would be MVP. Hey, yo, facts. Honestly, yeah. No, that's facts. It's the thing. Supporting cast is never used as a positive. It's always used as a negative, right? Supporting cast is always used as a negative to a quarterback. But I think the unfair thing about the whole Goff supporting cast is it's not like these dudes just showed up out of nowhere and it was like, oh yeah, they were just terrible for 7 years. It was like, no. It came through the trade. The Rams gave it to us because they didn't think Goff was that dude. And then he is that dude. So now that he is that dude, that's on them. That's not on us. We just did what we had. You know what I mean? Y'all gave us those picks. But so Amon-Ra makes it. That makes sense. His numbers were awesome again this year. Don't think he was top of the league, but they were awesome. Jamar took that. Sewell, okay, makes sense. But all pro isn't all pro top of your position? So they're saying that Sewell was the best offensive tackle in the NFL? Is that what they're saying? Because then Jack Fox got in there? Okay, Jack. And then Kirby Joseph. Yeah, all those make sense. But no, it couldn't be top of your position, because unless they're taking 2 receivers as first team all pros, because then they would have put Jamar. And Justin Jefferson. These must not be first teams then. They know what's up. Okay, yeah, 8 facts. Is this not first team? Oh, here's first team. Oh no, there's more than one player. My bad. There's 3 first-team receivers, so Goff's one of the first. So Goff's the top 3 receiver in their eye. Okay. What do we got? Tackle. Yeah, they're saying he's the best right tackle in the NFL. Wow. No, that's crazy. Okay. Defense, first team. It's crazy that Zach Bond's on there. Shout out to Zach Bond, man. Going from the Saints to that, it's crazy. Fred Warner, well-deserved. I see Roquan on there. Stingley, Pat. Stingley's had a good year. Stingley's turned that thing around quick, man. He's turned that thing around quick. Miles, Trey, yup. Cam Hayward. It's crazy that Cam Hayward's still on it. Dude's like 100 years old. He's still on it. Shout out to Cam Hayward. Marlon Humphrey in the slot now. He's been doing that this year. Kirby and Xavier McKinney. Okay, so they kept 2 safeties. That's why that worked out. And then, yeah, Jack Fox at punter. Okay, Jack. Oh, wait, hold up. We got any second teams, though? Frank Ragnow. I see you, Frank. Hey, who they put? Creed? Okay, I would have been a little surprised if he was first team. But he is pretty darn good. And he's pretty darn good. And he played pretty darn well against Minnesota. I mean, it started off a little slow, but then he got it going a little bit. Shout out to Frank, man. Frank's second team. Do we got anybody else on here? Lane, Nelson. What is it? Terry McLaurin? Okay. A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb. Josh Allen. Wait, who was the first team quarterback? Lamar. Oh, okay, of course. Yeah. Yeah, he'll win the MVP. Yeah, that's what that looks like. Those dudes are voting there. T.J. Watt, Nick Bonito. Freaking Van Ginkel, bro. Should have signed that dude. Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is an all-pro already? What? Come on, man. I saw that Brock Bauer. I think is he first team? I think he's first team tight end. That's insane, dude. As a rookie, first team tight end is not. Yo, this guy has to win Rookie of the Year. He has to. I don't care he's not a quarterback. He's got to win Rookie of the Year, bro. He has to. This dude, first team All-Pro as a tight end, has to win Rookie of the Year. What else is he supposed to do, bro? What else is he supposed to do, man? They don't really got weapons like that, but he should be. This the only second team player we had. Where's my man Duracell? Duracell did miss time. Jack Campbell? We didn't get on Jack Campbell love? Yo, what was Zaire Franklin? Zaire Franklin over Jack Campbell? What? Hold up. I got a problem with that. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Where's Brian Branch at? Okay, that one lost me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. Jack Campbell should be on there. I think he should be on there over Franklin. That kind of lost me a little bit. Would love to see you on heavyweights more. Oh, those are my guys, man. Yeah, I gotta get back on there again soon, man. Hey, you gotta tell them to invite me, bro. You know what I mean? They just be ignoring me and stuff, man. I don't know. I don't know if being easy or cool anymore, if I'm being honest. You know what I mean? I don't know if Easy rocks with me no more. No, I think we're actually going to do something Saturday on LNU. That's the plan. I think Saturday on LNU we're going to do a show. So, well, that's tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. I think we're going to do something tomorrow. But it won't be over there. But do you think we could draft an Edgerrin Cooper type in this draft? I think so, for sure. I think we need a front seven guy. I don't know if it'd be exactly Edgerrin Cooper type. I want more of like a pure pass rusher. But, yeah, no, I think so. Especially depending on what they do with Barnes. They don't bring Barnes back 100%. If they do bring Barnes back, I'd still go after somebody like that. But that would help a lot. You know. And I know there's guys like Cooper. You know, the guy at Bama is a dog too. I can't think of dude's name. I've been rolling through offense right now when it comes to the draft stuff, so I don't have a great name for you. But for sure, that's absolutely no Branch. Yeah, why Branch ain't on there? I feel like Jack Campbell's got to be on there. You believe Branch got robbed? I mean, who's above him? It was Kirby and Xavier, that's fine. And then they went to Kyle Hamilton and Buda. I'm not mad at that. You know what? I'm not mad at that. Buda Baker's a dog. I don't want to say he got robbed. I think he probably hurt himself too by playing in the slot. You know, going to the slot because I don't know what Buda's stats were on the season, but Buda Baker's an animal. Like when we played him, he was like the one guy when he was like, hey, that dude. It's like, hold up, you're going to trade that guy? That was also a weird flip too. The guy ends up being an all-pro. At one point, they thought they were going to trade him. Let me see his numbers on the season. What did Baker do on the season? He had 4 pass breakups, allowed a 129 passer rating. He had 0 interceptions. I mean, yeah, that's not. He's a dog, but he's a dog against the run. I feel like, yeah, Branch should have won that. Branch should have got that. I'm not mad at it though. I'm not mad at it, but Branch has a case. And I don't know what Kyle Hamilton did this year, but he definitely has a case over him. Him and Jack Campbell should be, I think, on here. I don't know who else would be. Maybe Zeitler. I think Zeitler could have a case probably beyond past Lindstrom. Lindstrom's been really good though. I'm pretty sure. I don't think Lindstrom. Quinn Meinertz. Wow, really? Franklin's a dog, man. But every time I watch, because look, man. I was like invested for a second with the Colts. I still am, man. Shout out to the Colts. I was working for them a couple years ago. You know what I mean? So I got random like Colts. I got a Colts shirt in my closet. I got random Colts things. So I rock with what they've done with it, especially the consistency. Like those guys, they should be getting better because they haven't moved off of guys. But Campbell took off this year. Like Campbell's got the highest run stop rate in the league. But it was like by a mile at one point. I mean, this guy like was picking up for everything. So. Yeah, Campbell should have got the nod. Campbell should have got the nod to me. Shout out to Franklin. They got EJ Speed over there, too. I think he's had it kind of rough. Do you think we'll go after cornerbacks free agency if we don't re-sign Carlton? Yeah, probably. Because I don't think we draft somebody. We might draft somebody late, but probably not early, so probably. If we don't bring back Carlton, at least for depth, we'll probably bring back somebody. I mean, we'll be in a solid spot because I do like Rakestraw. I really like Rakestraw a lot. I don't think it has to be anything significant. Meek can come back as a starter. They may view it like that. The biggest thing will be, do they view Branch as a starting nickel, or do they want to get him back to safety? Because then that'll affect Iffy. If they bring Iffy back and they view Branch as a starting nickel player, then I think you don't need to go very aggressive in terms of like going to get another DB. If you don't bring Iffy back and you want to kick Branch back to safety, which I'd be pretty surprised at this point if they didn't bring Iffy back, and you don't want to kick him back, and you want to kick him back to safety, and that position's open, you want to put a Meek back there, which I don't know the Lions even want to put a Meek back there. I could see a line saying after seeing a Meek play wide, like, let's leave him wide, let's let Rakestraw compete in the slot. Mosley's kind of out of the picture at that point, and then you'd have a Meek out wide with Terran Arnold. Like, that's a nice corner. You need depth. I don't think you need a starter, though. But I'd bring in someone to compete. If you're not going to bring back Iffy, I'd bring in someone to compete with, or Carlton. I would definitely bring in someone to compete, at least for slot. Because I think I want to leave a Meek out wide. I like a Meek out wide better, and I think Rakestraw can play in this slot. Do you think we'll go after any... Oh, DJ Reed? DJ Reed is a dog. DJ Reed's a dog. He's kind of built like a slot, though, right? Like, I don't know if he could play... I don't know if he can play in the slot, but he's built like it. He's got the body type. He might be too expensive, though. For what we may be after. But that's definitely kind of body type. Like, that's a type of body type that actually would work here. What's the draft handle that you got on? Oh, draft handle is it's on the round table. I think it's just called like Draftaholics. It's on the NFC. No, it's not. So we have the Roundtable Sports. It's part of Roundtable Sports. I think it's called Draftaholics, but I think if you go to Roundtable Sports, you'll find it. I think it's just called Draftaholics. We do that every week on Thursday. On Thursday, we do that at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. It's good for me because I'm getting into it like right now. So I've went through a lot of offensive guys because we're still on the offensive side. We're doing tight ends next. Pretty fired up about that. There's some good tight ends this year. So that'll be good. Wide receiver was tough. Because there's so many dang receivers that you're like, man, it's a lot to watch in a quick amount of time. So wide receiver was tough, but tight end will be a little bit easier. Anyone beside myself dig that Skycast? I kind of rock with it. It's weird though. Like, it's not as great as I would think it would be. Like, I feel like I'd love it, but then I kind of don't. You know what I mean? Like, I like watching the game back better than the Skycast. It's too much. I feel like I get lost. I'm trying to do too much with it. What about Rakestraw? No, I'm saying Rakestraw should compete in the slot next year. Like, I'd have him compete for a starting nickel spot next year. And that's only if you don't bring Iffy back. Bring Iffy back, I'd just have Branch start in the slot. And then I'd have that competition between Rakestraw and Branch. And then if Branch gets kicked out of there, put him at safety. But I think the big block to that is Iffy. Probably more so than Carlton. Because I love Carlton, and if you got Carlton a reasonable deal, I'd re-sign him. Like, I know he's going to miss some time again, but I'd re-sign him. If he plays 10 games, I'm good with it. If he plays 10 games, as long as there's got to be a limit, but if he played 10 games, I'd re-sign him. You know what I mean? I'd be fine with that if the price isn't crazy, because he's such a good fit for this defense. And he's been so much better in a variety of coverages this year. He's not just like a one-trick kind of player. He's doing it all really well. He fits so well. Man. So I'd bring him back. But if the price gets just too high, because I know there's other teams that will be interested, if that happens, that's okay. If he comes back, I'd bring Iffy back for sure then, just to make sure I have flexibility and just to make sure I can keep him outside. Scout up Alabama. Maybe that's who Brad drafts. Hey, that is who Brad drafts. You can't go wrong with Alabama. I mean, this last year, not the same. All right, but even Bama transfers, you know what I mean? Keep an eye on those guys. How much do you think Monty could use in the first game back? That's a good question. Quite a bit. I think quite a bit. I think if they feel good about him, I mean, we might still see a little bit of Craig, but I'd say 8 carries. I'd say about 8 carries, at least. I would say at least 8 carries, honestly. Quite a bit. Whoever we get in the first plate for the SEC, in my opinion, yeah, no, that's probably about right. You know, they got a lot of dudes over there, man. They got a lot of dogs over there. Can Terran play slot? Terran can. He did in college, but I don't think they'll move him in there. I wouldn't think they would because it would hurt where. I mean, I guess they could. Yeah, if you brought Carlton back and you had a Meek play wide, you could try to push Terran inside. I don't think they'd try to do that. I don't think they would. That'd be interesting though. He can do it. I mean, he did it in college, just not a lot. He did it occasionally in college, and he was capable. He's capable, and he fits because he's so explosive. Like, he's so quick twitch, short area burst. he fits that area and actually kind of minimizes some of the long speed concerns that he had, even though he's not slow. And he definitely tackles. Like he could play in the slot. I just don't know that they want to kick him inside. But if the numbers worked out that way, yeah. I never trust it until I see it. That's like one of those things where it's like, yes, I believe he can, but I don't really believe that they would do that until I actually saw it. You know what I mean? I have to see the lines where like, yeah, they're trying him in the nickel before I believe that they would actually do it. At this point, I'd be shocked if he ever plays inside for the Lions. Monty gonna be huge versus Philly. Hey, hold up, Philly ain't win yet. What about Green Bay? Come on now. Hey, and if Washington handles business, which I think they will, Philly's got to get through. Y'all are saying LA. They got to get through Minnesota or LA. That's tough. I think Minnesota-Philly would be an amazing game. I'm kind of hoping for that. I would love to see that. I'd love to see us in Washington and Philly-Minnesota. That would be an amazing game, man. Philly-Minnesota would be fantastic. I'm here for that. I don't know who the heck's coming out of that, but I would love to see that happen. You know what I mean? That's a game right there, though. That's a game. I mean, ideally, I would see all the good teams get knocked out, even though they're all pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's knock out Minnesota right away. Knock out Philly. Let us play Green Bay. You know, Green Bay's tough. We play Green Bay. If we get by Green Bay, then it's like, all right, it's pretty light from here. But that would be a fire matchup. Like, as just an outside, I'd root for that, seeing that game go down. I want Washington, too. I don't think they're going to be bad. I don't think it'd be like an easy game, but I just think it's going to happen. You know, being the 6th seed, like I feel like that's such a very reasonable upset pick. I don't even know if it's considered an upset. If we got a Lions-Vikings NFC title game, I'd buy my tickets to NOLA ASAP. We own KOC. You would? You buy tickets to, hey, okay, Ed. Ed, send some pictures, dog, that I can believe I'm there. Hey, you know what I mean? Send some pictures if you doing that. We might get that. Packers are an easy dub. Yeah, I don't believe in the Packers very much. I don't think Packers can beat Philly. I think they will beat Philly. I think they could, but I don't think they will. Philly and Vikes would be a game to see. Yeah, it'd be fire. That's a fire matchup, man. That's a fire matchup. It would be fun. All right, look, man. Wait. Do you want us to play Washington because I don't know if I want. I feel like I don't know if it's an easier matchup. Like I don't know enough about Philly. I got to watch more Philly. I've only watched a little bit of Philly to this point. They're way better. Lattimore's come back. He's gonna be tough. They've been so good this year. I mean, they create pressure at a better than average rate. You know what I'm saying? They create pressure pretty well. They blitz a ton, so you get that. I don't think they're loaded defensively, but their defensive line does have pieces. They've always had pieces. They just started moving off them. They're just coached a lot better. And I think that we'd outman them offensively. And then defensively, I think outside of Terry McLaurin, who's awesome, I don't know how much they have. So, yeah, I think if you talked from a personnel spot right now, I think they'd be the easiest matchup. But their offensive line has played well. They're just coached better. You know, they have a top offensive line this year, not because they have dogs across the board. Cosme's been a lot better this year. They're pretty good at tackle. Coleman's been huge. I think they got Brandon Coleman over there. So, like, to me, they're just a better coached team this year. But I think personnel-wise, they're probably the weakest team that we could see. So I guess, yeah, honestly, probably, yeah. Now that I'm, like, saying it out loud, that's probably the weakest team that we could see on paper. But I don't know. I mean, they might be, you know, they're coached clearly really well. And that team might have a lot of things up their sleeve. They got nothing to lose, and you got to deal with Jaden Daniels, which just changes everything. As soon as that guy takes off a couple times, like, throw everything out the window. Here he goes. yeah. Saquon does cover some things up. Really good on both sides of the ball. They are. That team's loaded. Washington would be an awesome game. Just be super fun to watch. And we're better. There you go. Hey, look, I'm here for that. Fun game. We're better. I'm here for that. Yeah. JD is him. Who's JD? JD? I don't know who JD is, but I'm with you. I'm with you. Hey, Chad, look at this, man. So we're going to get out of here. If you haven't seen my predictions video, it's up if you want to check it out. You don't got to, but it's my wild card predictions. If you want to hear me talk about it for like 15 minutes, I posted that today. But I would say if you haven't seen it, check out. Yeah, I'm sure you all have. If you haven't seen it, Jared Goff. Jared Goff, yeah. If you haven't seen it, check out yesterday's Jared Goff video, bro. It's one of my favorites in weeks, man. But that being said, man, we hit on everything. Beginning of the stream, we went through. We talked about some of the coaching news that we have. JG he's been a dog. We talked about some of the coaching news. We went through the defensive side, and I think that's what we hit on. We hit on something else, too. We looked at the All-Pros, but this was a good episode, man. I'm glad we did this. I'm glad I didn't save this. I was going to save this. I'm glad I didn't save this. We just knocked it out. I should be fair for us the way. Hey, they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl right now. So I would believe that they will be. They're favorites to win a Super Bowl, like plus 290. So now's the time. Get your bets in, man. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. I appreciate y'all joining. I will see you guys probably tomorrow. You know what I mean? Probably tomorrow. We'll see exactly how. I'm pretty sure I'll be on LNU at very worst at I think we're trying to go 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if y'all see us live about 1 p.m. tomorrow, maybe a little bit earlier, I think, because of the games, unless there's not a game at 1. I don't remember. They said something like that. But we'll be live on Lions Nation Night, either at 1 or a little bit before 1, to kind of talk about, I think, the upcoming week with Spencer and with Easy. And then we'll kind of just go from there, man. But we may even do some reactions to these games. I'm pumped. I'm pumped for these games, man. I appreciate y'all joining, man. Have a great night. You know what I mean? Enjoy your weekend. I don't know. Watch a good movie or something. You know what I mean? Watch Sonic 3. I haven't seen Sonic 3. I haven't even seen Sonic 1. I've seen Sonic 2. But the Sonic looked good back there. We also got Knuckles coming back, baby. Hey, look. It's about that time. Oh, snap. Uh-oh. Hold up. Steph's phone. You know what I didn't even notice before? Gibbs is still here. Gibbs is here too, right? So this actually is like a really good. I mean, they're sitting in front of Goff, but it's okay. Oh snap! Oh my gosh! Should we take Ray Agnew's place? Should take Ray Agnew's place if when he leaves? Yeah, I haven't heard anything on Ray Agnew. Like I've heard the idea that he could leave, but I haven't heard any team actually connected to him. So if you see something, Doug, hit me on X or something. I haven't seen like him actually connected to a team or like a team actually bringing him in, but I've heard, Ray Agnew could, have interest. I just haven't heard him connected to anybody at this point. But if that happens, I'm sure they'd go in-house. They'd probably promote. They'd probably go to the scouting department and just promote within. They've had some long tenured guys there. They've had some, I think, what is it, Hudspeth is in there. They got some long tenured guys. I'm sure they just promote from within. That'd be my guess. But you don't know. They got connections. I have to look into that one more, though. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Appreciate y'all joining. I'll see you guys soon. Light just popped on. And we're out.